Hi, Mitch.
Hi,
How are you?
great, going good. How's it going with you?
Good. I see you working hard. I watch your Facebook. I know you're constantly gigging somewhere.
It sure seems like it.
Well, I have like a little selfish reason for wanting to interview you, because I was such a Rich fan,
Yeah,
and that story. Um, his stories blew me away. I did have the honor of being at a concert while he was alive, and like he was just somebody that was so unusual. And then when Ragamuffin the movie came around, um, I ended up doing like an interview with, I think it was his brother at the time, about the movie coming out, and then I helped do some screenings of the movie. So I watched the movie so many times that you'd
yeah,
think I wouldn't cry, but I cried and cried like, just because the whole thing hit me. And then I didn't realize, after a while I was like, wait a minute, that really looks like Mitch, like playing Mitch. And I eventually I looked at the credits. I was like, oh, that really is him. But then I think you're so cool and unusual as an artist, so different, that I really love that aspect as well. I think you're doing his legacy an honor by the kind of stuff you do. How are you, by the way? Just how's things going?
yeah. Well, they're going good. I'm just grateful to get to do what I get to do and live life in the midst of that and out of that, and glad to try and go about things in the same essence as Rich, but um, being trying to be faithful to what the Lord is doing in me and see where that goes.
Well, and so I mean, you're from Kansas originally, right?
Right.
And when you met Rich, that was like mid '90s, in that range.
Yeah, exactly. I think because I went to school in Wichita, Kansas, at Friends University, and Rich was going to the same school. And after a number of years, he'd come back to school, and we met in a class. I think it would have been, gosh, 91, 92, and then we graduated. We both graduated at the same time in 95, and started working with him then.
And then you were in the Jeep with Rich when he was killed.
Yeah, that's correct. We had um, just finished up the majority's bit of work on my first solo record, and then we were driving through the night from there to a concert, and that's when the wreck happened.
But you ended up in a coma. You had multiple injuries and everything, and then you had to like learn how to walk, talk, speak, and all that again, right?
Yeah, all that stuff. It was definitely it's a benchmark in my life, of course, and it was a trying time of question and doubt and wonderment as to what was going on, and nobody, including got why Rich had been taken, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with my situation. It took me a long time to put things together as to what had happened, because my brain was shook around pretty good, and um, and I don't have a memory of the pretty much 6 weeks prior to or 6 weeks after the wreck.
Oh
So
wow.
it is a odd time and a hard time, and as life has progressed from that, I have come to see what good has come out.
And it's got to be such a blessing to kind of have a foundation with somebody like him. I would have wanted to be friends with this guy. I mean, he just I love it. I have a friend of mine that does promotional stuff, and she said she was eating her lunch on a park bench one day in downtown Nashville, and she looked at the guy that sat down next to her and didn't have any shoes on, and she looked at his jeans and they're tore up, and then she kept looking up, and then he had on this t-shirt, and she said, "Oh, great! Like somebody sat down to me that's, you know, that's maybe, scary or something," and then she looked up finally to his face, and he goes, "Hi, Carol," and she was like, "Oh my gosh, hi, Rich! I didn't know it was you." you know, but he was just sitting there pondering, like, and she's like, "This is so rich," like literally. But I love how he was just kind of a pioneer, but yet he was amazed at God and people, and just I think what's so cool is I was reading your bio on your Facebook, and it's like your show is MacGyver meets Mark Twain. And I'm like, you're doing his legacy, honor by, kind of not of just going against the grain, just doing honestly what kind of music you want to do, and that's really what he did. Is he marched to his own drum, and your drums have like you have like a junkyard drum set. Do you still have that?
I have a table full of various and sundry things. It looks kind of like a garage sale. And it's actually uh, instruments that I use for to make percussion loops, and then I play various stringed instruments to that stuff. And yeah, it's just children's toys and odds and ends and junk and household items, and it's good because it's this kind of the stuff that is overlooked, stuff that it might be discarded, stuff that we take for granted, and I like to use it to create something, and I think that is what we are called to do. I'm not sure that there's any time that we are more like God than when we're creating as the Creator uh, does and did, and so yeah. The You mentioned Rich being a pioneer and also looking at God in awe and wonderment, and I think that's what pioneers do. I think that's why they are pioneers, is that they see a God that is big and overwhelming, and yet is moving them to be that, and lo and behold, when you do that, you end up maybe shaking some things up.
Well, do you still have Flossie? Is that still come around?
Flossie is still around. She's still kicking. I have to kind of tape her together every now.
What I was thinking is, it sounds kind of like when, like in the movie about Rich when when he made the rain, but just like how you were talking about taking all of these things that would normally maybe discarded as junk and putting together to create things. I'm like, that's really what God does with us. He takes people that would normally be discarded and he puts them together to create beautiful music in our world. And I think Rich was such a example of like of something that I wish I could live like that. I think it takes such bravery to just strip down the gospel, like he did. It's so hard. And I wish he was in the social media age because he probably wouldn't have a Twitter, would he? He would probably wouldn't have all these things. He'd be one of the only people that you would have to have a have his phone number, you wouldn't be able to book him.
Yeah, it does take a little bit of bravery to to live by faith and to live in wide open awareness and to live out love. It requires a good bit of bravery, and we will inevitably end up being uncomfortable. Uh, but I think that's why Jesus said that he was our comforter. It's because in following him, we will inevitably end up being uncomfortable.
Well, and what's cool is by the time you met Rich, like Awesome God had already come out, right? So when he went back to school.
Yeah, right. That was could have been in the past at that point, and he was still going and arguably making a lot better music than that.
And then for you, I mean, it's like just looking at all the stuff you've done as far as, not just award winning, but like I saw and I'm sure this number is obviously bigger now, but in over 1,800 concerts in 49 states. Where's that 50th state? Where have we not hit? Have we hit them all yet?
I've yet to play a concert in Alaska.
We got to get Alaska, man. They got to get on the board, man.
I'd love to make that happen.
In like summertime, right?
Yeah, and it's just not a place that you tend to pass through much on your way to one place to another.
Yeah, so it's just kind of not on the thoroughfare. Oh, that's a really cool, but it says 13 countries since 1998 and 11 albums, is that right?
I think that is the number. You lose track a little bit, but 11 albums and a couple EPs, and there's a live record, live DVD. I don't know exactly how the numbers work out, but a good number of albums, and I think it's up to about 2,000 concerts now, and I'm grateful to get to do what I feel like I need to do. I feel quote unquote called, but not in the hyper spiritual sense of the word, but I've heard that it's said that our calling is where the world's greatest joy and I heard it said where the world's greatest need and our greatest joy meet. I know the world needs the truth. I know the world needs the truth, and I know that it's a great joy to do this. So I'm glad to get to do it.
And I would think that are you like I loved about Rich in concert where he'd just be playing and then just stop because God just revealed him something during a song and he just had to stop and talk. And I can see between your instruments and your music how you do a lot of storytelling. Is that correct?
Yeah, I tend to blab a lot.
That's awesome. We love that though.
Yeah, it's just I just kind of hang out and try and share songs and share stories and share thoughts and notions and God is always speaking and hopefully it comes down to just as we listen we hear God.
Do you feel it kind of changing a lot as far as maybe not the style because probably with your instrument setup it probably kind of goes back and forth in the same type of style, but do you feel the stories change like with every concert or with different songs or something like that? Do you feel like that your stories are just kind of always evolving and changing and
always evolving? Anything is a good way to put it because I think we are as humans if we are like we were talking about before, living out becoming the people that God is creating us to be. We are always, gosh, newness is flying at us from all different kinds of angles, and so we are always becoming. And so, what's in me and whatever I would like to share with people is always kind of becoming, and it's an adventure every day. This following God thing.
I'm curious out of I don't want to keep going back to the Rich thing, but that's how I become a fan of yours. That's I think you probably hit that a lot, right? Like people that are fans of Rich become fans of yours at times.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to be in the same sentence as Rich. I mean, it's quite overwhelming and quite an honor. So I'm fine with that.
We only got so many of obviously the quotes that he would say. Do you have a favorite of the things that he used to say? He has so many different great little nuggets that he would give out. Do you have a favorite that is been kind of something that you used in concerts or in your life?
Oh,
So many.
there's a lot. I probably don't have it broken down into clips and quotes. Um,
That's what we do because
you know,
we only have so much of him.
he's just my friend, and I just like hanging out. And things rub off on you when you're brushing your teeth out of the same sink.
Yeah.
So
You can't help it. And you're sharing your life on the road. Just being alone on the road like that, just watching the miles go by, probably have some really interesting conversations that way.
yeah, exactly.
I'll tell you one of my favorites, and I've actually used it a million times when people start trying to, figure out how to minister to somebody. I said, well, Rich Mullins. I said I remembered it, especially from the movie. I said, he said he did not become a believer because someone told him what the nuts and bolts of Christianity was, but that someone was willing to be the nuts and bolts in his life.
Yeah,
And that is, I think that's something that you probably strive to do, is more to be the nuts and bolts and, um, you know, uh, I think if you were still doing music, it'd be like the barefoot ministry, Like, I mean, I think there's something great about um, just throwing your instruments together through kids' toys or a plastic flamingo or whatever you've got going, and
yeah,
just sit and be real with people and let them get to know the Savior through getting to know you and your experience with Him.
right,
And I think
right.
that's amazing. Now, people can actually book you for concerts. So, where do we tell them to go?
Well, uh, MitchMcVicker.com is
That's
a good,
easy.
yeah. And there's a few different Facebook pages, and yeah, that's the way to do it. Just send a message into one of the Facebook pages or to the website. I think there's even a phone number on there. Yeah, it's pretty easy peasy. It's pretty basic and hopefully simple and back to the nuts and bolts thing. Yeah, I don't know anything that's more nuts and bolts than love. And I think this whole following God thing is much more practical than a lot of us tend to approach it as. And so being the nuts and bolts gets people's attention because it stands in such contrast to the gosh the technology and entertainment saturated world that's around us.
Because they're not used to people filling a need. They're not a real need,
Right.
they're used to filling a desire maybe, but not an actual need. and
Yeah.
and I think that's where we get believers to non-believers to understand our life is to, you know meeting a need, and that can be a concert with some random instruments or telling a story, and it can be just by, I have a friend of mine that's does concerts, and he goes down to when they are feeding the homeless, and he just gets an acoustic guitar and starts playing, and he hands out sandwiches,
Yeah.
and you watch the joy on their faces,
Yeah.
and meeting needs, and just being someone to kind of be like you are, being a storyteller, and letting them just letting them experience it, instead of being preached at. Let them
Right.
experience the presence, and then let them get to know what that is like. And
Right.
I'm a huge fan of I've talked to you several times on Facebook. I'm just a huge fan of your music and your message and the way that you go about it. Rich would be proud, in my opinion. I just think he would be so excited and stoked, and I think he'd be out at the thrift store right now looking for other things to bang together. I just, I just think it would be a really, really cool concert to see all of that going on. And I think he's doing that for us. I think he's gonna have a great concert for us when we see him again.
Yeah.
I just thank you so much. I know I know you're busy. I see your I see your schedule come through my feed. I know you're busy. And I appreciate you taking out the time, and we're just grateful for the time to speak with you, and grateful for everything that you're doing for the kingdom. And we're just I'm blessed to talk to you.
Well, Ginger, I appreciate you having me. It's been wonderful to talk to you. Thank you for carving out some time for me, and like I said, I'm glad to get to do it, and I look forward to being up in that area soon.
Yeah, and
And
stay in touch with me. Let me know when you're coming back, and we can help you find a place for you to play near where you're already going to be. That kind of thing. We always have plenty of host homes for sure.
awesome. Well, that sounds great.
Well, thank you, Mitch. I hope you have a very blessed day and a blessed holiday season if I don't talk to you before then. And then I can't wait to talk to you again in the near future and hopefully in concert.
Yeah. Well, that sounds great.
Well, thank you so much, Mitch. You have a great day.
You as well. Thank you.